Hey everyone, welcome to another painting tutorial. My name is Jay and today I'll be showing you how to paint this Company Master Balthazar from the new Dark Vengeance starter set. I started with the model assembled but not glued together. The reason being is after I put the pieces together and they click together very well, I noticed that the sword is a very awkward angle for airbrushing. So what I did was I just put them together just to show you here, but then I separated them once again just to paint the power sword before putting them back together. For the sword, I decided to do a single gradient because I'm not a big fan of the double gradients with these type of swords with the division in the middle. So using an airbrush, I painted a single gradient along both sides, first with white scars, through Lothern blue, once again just feathering the light blue up towards the white, wiping at the top, going to darkness at the bottom, through Macridge blue, which is an intermediate blue, kind of like the old Ultramarines blue, and finally a 1-to-1 mix of Cantor blue and Abaddon black, which will be a very, very dark blue just for the base of the sword. And now that the sword is done, I gave it a quick satin varnish and then put all the pieces back together as you can see here. I gave a base coat to the armor with Caliban green. Caliban green is basically the equivalent to the old Dark Angel's green. So it's the perfect color if you're painting Dark Angel's armor. This Caliban green went on particularly thin, so I'd recommend doing 2 coats to make sure you get nice, even, uniform coverage over the entire armor. Plus, as this is the foundation of the armor, it is very important to have a very nice, even coat. When the base coat was dry, I gave all the armor a bile tan green shading. The purpose of the shade is to get into the armor, specifically the recesses, and to give them a nice dark tone, which will then provide, of course, some shading. If after 1 coat you're unhappy and you want to darken the recesses even more, feel free to do another. Just make sure the first one's completely dry before proceeding to the second. I then gave all of these areas an overbrushing using Caliban green. This is the base color, so basically the purpose of this is just to make sure that the recesses are shaded and Caliban green is everywhere else to provide some nice blending and help with the highlights. I gave the armor a first highlight with a 1-to-1 mix of Caliban green and Warpstone glow to produce a lighter green. And what I did was I just picked the edges of the armor that I really wanted to stick out and pop under the light. So certain edges like around the face and the fingers and the cuffs of the sleeves, etc. Remember that this highlighting is essentially just an edge highlighting, so go with very, very light strokes over the edges of the armor. And also go as thin as possible. As you can see, this one highlight alone allows many of the edges to really stand out now on the very dark green armor. For the backpack, once again, I'm just picking certain edges that I really want to stick out, and I'm focusing more on the top part of the backpack, as this is the area in which the light would be hitting, though I do highlight a little bit the outer edges of the backpack. For my second highlight, I used a 1-to-1 mix of Warpstone glow and Moot green. This will produce a very, very bright green. So once again, just picking a subset of the previous highlight edges, and just pick the ones you really, really want to stand out under the light. Now, this highlight may seem a little bit extreme at first, but we will soon be blending all the colors together with the glaze. And as I just mentioned, here is the glaze. So I chose a Waywatcher green glaze, which will then tie all the greens together. It'll basically bring down the two highlights while keeping the armor the same color of Caliban green. I base coated all the brown cloth areas using Bane Blade Brown, which is a very nice light brown color, and it's a base color, so it tends to go on really easily and has great coverage. As with the previous base coats, the key to this step is to take your time and get a very nice even coat or coverage before proceeding to the next step. I gave all these cloth areas a seraphim sepia shade. Seraphim sepia is a great color for these areas since it is not very dark like Agrex's Earthshade. In fact, it's actually quite bright, and it's excellent for doing layer colors over because it'll actually show through the light layer colors that we're going to use. I then built up very thin layers of Ushabti bone. I began with the highest points of each area and then worked my way down towards the recesses. And once this was accomplished, I then repeated the process with a lighter color, let's say a 1-to-1 ratio of Ushabti bone to white scars, and then worked my way downwards once again, but this time I left a little bit in the recesses more than what I did the previous time, and I kept repeating this process with a lighter and lighter color by adding a little bit more white scars to the Ushabti bone. I also used Ushabti bone to paint the purity seals and the banners on the model, and then I gave them all an Agrex's Earthshade to distinguish them from the brown cloth. I base coated the purple areas, specifically the outside of the cape, with a 1-to-1 mix of Lothern Blue and Evil Sun's Scarlet, which produces a really nice light purple color. This mix of colors tend to go on pretty well, though I would recommend doing 2 coats to make sure that you get excellent coverage over the gray primer. I know it looks dark at the moment, but we will bring it down soon with a shading. This step did take a little bit of time because I took my time, made sure that to get all of the cape areas properly painted with purple and to not accidentally go over the lines and paint over the nice white areas that we've just been focusing on. When the base coat was complete, I then shaded all of the cape area with Drakenhoof Nightshade, which though technically is a blue shading, the blue tends to go over really nicely over light purple and fill in the gaps in the capes and give them a really nice dark purple tinge. And with this step nearing completion, we can now turn our attention to highlighting the cape and then focusing on the red areas, such as the guns and the eyes, and all the white areas on the model, like the feathers.